When it comes to self-development, no matter the method you use, the vital point is to practice. If you want to learn methods to transform your life and actively grow into the potential you know is inside of you, then you're in the right place. Welcome to The Vital Point. I'm your host, Jonathan Schecter. I'm a psychedelic integration and transformation coach, as well as a breathwork facilitator and an enthusiast of personal growth. You have the capacity to evolve and bring your intentions and dreams into the world, and there's never been more access to so many incredible modalities that can help you on your journey. This podcast will help you learn about new methods to bring into your life, give you practices to follow, and share stories from practitioners who are doing the work so that you can feel inspired to go and practice, because that is the vital point. My guest today is a friend, Adam Heaps, and I'm really excited to have him. Adam creates and supports space for humans to come together and connect with higher self and community. He facilitates mixed modality satsang with the energy stack, supports local men's groups, and organizes a weekly nature cold plunge and drum circle in the Utah mountains. All these practices emphasize surrender, letting go into the flow, and integrating our experiences as we ride this rock through space. And I've been blessed to meet Adam through the wonders of the internet and through mutual friends, and really grateful that he decided to come be a guest on The Vital Point today. I'm really excited to hear about his journey and what he's been doing, because I look at the movement, I'm going to call it a movement, but the community that he's building with some of other people in Utah, and I'm just really in awe and really feel grateful that I can witness these seeds that are blooming and like the plants that are growing out of that, and I just see them growing more and more all the time, and it's a beautiful thing to witness, you know. So Adam, thank you so much for being on The Vital Point.
Yeah, hey Jonathan, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so I love like in your in that bio, you know, it mentions surrender, which is like one of my favorite things to get into and to really talk about. But I think before we like jump into sort of the deep end of that, I'd love to just hear a little bit more like about your story, like how you kind of came into this work and like how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah, okay. Man, the story is one of those things where, you know, it's kind of tricky to know where to start, because when you begin to watch the patterns and kind of wake up to what is going on, you realize what you thought was the moment of realization or wake up is just one stepping stone in this long journey that's probably been going for lifetimes, right? So I'll skip those and we'll come into this lifetime. Start here. I think I had the pleasure of growing up in Utah in a religious community, which I think, you know, there's that's a whole nother series of podcasts we could do. But I think what I'll touch on there is just to say that I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to start out with those spiritual seeds, kind of what you're talking about, right? Like being able to connect to spirit and having parents in a community that had that as an intention with love, you know. And so I want to give some credit there where it's due and just kind of acknowledge that for a moment, because although that specific community is not what I practice now, it was definitely part of the foundation of connecting me into what spirit felt like. I always felt a little bit of a misfit in that community because I didn't quite connect in the same way. But what I've learned as I've kind of ventured and explored and found myself deeper is that what we're all looking for is just some love inside, right? And that peace. I think what's kind of brought me here to this point is, you know, life events that have triggered disintegration, have triggered ego death. And I think we've all on this path have experienced one thing or another that's brought us to that spot. And I've had many of those through my life. I feel like sometimes I wonder, is this a dark night of the soul again? Like, am I doing this again? Really?
Again.
But because it's like, it sounds like a thing you do once, and I think it's a thing that happens over and over again. But about 5, 6 years ago, my youngest daughter spent some time in the hospital. She almost passed away. We went through kind of a traumatic experience where she had got her hands on some eye drops and drank them, and this constricts your blood vessels in your eye to remove the redness. So it constricted the blood vessels in her body. And we didn't really understand at the moment that she had ingested this. We just saw her with it. Found her later on kind of lethargic and passing out. She was about 1.5, and rushed her to the hospital and flew her, life flighted her, ended up life flighting her to a bigger primary children's hospital here in Utah. And wow, that was a wild experience to be a part of. Witnessing and being a part of that moment of seeing her dying there in my arms, and feeling that feeling. And then this is something that can be reversed with another medication that opens the blood vessels, right? So we try to pump her full of medication to keep her going. And she did. She made it through the night. Thank God. And we're all here today, happy. And in fact, the very next day, she wakes up and smile on her face, right back to normal. This blew my mind. It took me so long to process through the death that happened then, but didn't happen.
Yeah.
And it really, really pushed me deep down into that place where, of surrender, and of sort of letting go and accepting what is in life, and sort of acknowledging that it is this dualistic reality we live in, that 1 minute everything's great, the next it's horrible, and then we're right back where we were and it's great again, and we're in this constant flux. Which sent me spinning. So I sort of went into my own inner journey, and through that process of trying to control life and stress and anxiety, and really getting dark, and wondering what the meaning of all that was, and what helped get me out was that surrender. And what the tool that I used to help me get out of that was my breath. That was the first, real, like, deep dive into spiritual practice for me. I had always, like I said, kind of grew up and had some of those things, but meditation and breath was not taught like this. It was more of a religious version of spirit versus the version of spirit that I know now, which is this energy that's here inside of me and you and all around us, this consciousness that we breathe into ourselves every day, and we co-create. And diving deep into that practice and finding that peace within myself, that equanimity in life, and really practicing that mindfulness and that surrender, allowing what is to be. And then, as many things go, as the deeper you get into these practices, the more life accelerates, and one thing leads to another. And here we are, and I feel called to share that same knowledge with others, right? And just help others realize that you have all the tools you need already right here with you today to overcome the challenges that you're experiencing, and the patterns of mind that show up. We have all the tools to combat anything that creates a difficulty in our life. And that's something that I realized through that process, and something that I'm really passionate about, helping connect in others. So that's kind of how I got here today, is just having that journey and that desire to, after I had healed here, or learned to heal here, because it's a process. It never stops, right? We're always doing it, but wanting to share and just wanting to make that available for others who are in that space and ready to connect to that healing process.
Mm. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, and thanks for being so vulnerable. I mean, that's an incredible story, and hearing it, I feel so grateful that you guys were able to have that crisis be averted, first of all,
Mm.
and I can't imagine what that felt like as a father, to be a part of that experience. And then the way that you told it, in terms of like your daughter waking up the next day and being like, okay, cool, like let's go play, like I'm ready to be a kid again,
Mm.
um uh that just is, that's amazing. And so yeah, I just want to acknowledge that, and thank you for your vulnerability, first of all. um and then also, just I feel so grateful that hearing your experience, that like that journey and that experience, and being able to process it, and like what you went through led you into a deeper path for yourself, and into wanting to help other people out of the darkness as well. And it's something that on this podcast I hear over and over again. And it's like, yes, like this is such a common thread for people, and that are going through dark nights of the soul, or these personal crises, or traumas, that they're able to take that experience and then be like, okay, now that I found a way to help myself, like I have to share that with somebody else. I have to find a way to help others. And to me, it's like really been the common thread throughout this podcast. It doesn't really matter the modality that somebody's practicing or teaching or coaching, facilitating, whatever. It's like that's one of these things that like binds us together in with our humanity. And it's just a beautiful thing to witness and to listen to. And I appreciate you being a part of that in your own way.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you too, because I think you're out here doing similar work, and I appreciate all the others. I mean, I couldn't have found what I found or realized this ability if it wasn't for those like us that came before and shared. And so, I think that's an important part of the process, right? Is once you've learned to heal yourself, you start to realize you might be fit to help others.
Right.
Not that you need to go and pull anybody towards any healing, but to open up the space to allow them to come when and if they're ready.
Hmm.
Um, it's just a beautiful part of that unfolding process. And it always people say, oh, thank you for creating this space or whatever. And it's like, well, selfishly, I started this for me, like I'm glad you're getting something out of it now. And that means so much to me, because the community is such a large part of the healing aspect. And I think we know too, like if I do work on myself, uh, it's beautiful and needed, but when we do it together, or we're all together in a community, it's amplified, right? The results aren't 1+1 is 2. It's like 1+1 is 100, and it starts to lift us all to this new space. Um, but it does come from that part of us where we know we need the help, and so we set out to do the work, and that's kind of where it starts, right? So I appreciate
Yeah.
that credit, but it starts from this selfish place. It's funny. Um,
Yeah, for sure. Like it's selfish, but it's not. Like I feel like within the space that we're in right now, like with this transitional period, and psychedelics coming into the forefront and
mm,
into sort of the mainstream consciousness, and like breath work, like you and I both facilitate breath work. And like I think Wim Hof has like a reality show now, and I've
yeah.
seen him on Netflix on Gwyneth Paltrow's show. And like I've seen so many different newspaper and magazine articles about like, oh, what's this breathwork thing? And so it's like there I think I'm just gonna go ahead and make an assumption that there are some people that have a selfish motivation for getting into that. They see like, oh, this is the next big thing. And,
Mm,
you know, it's pretty easy. Like I can do this. Like I've seen like, you know, weekend breathwork certifications and so I do think that there are people that are coming to the space with sort of that selfish motivation. I don't
mm,
think that you or I or the people that we're talking about are, you know, it's
mm, mm,
like, yeah, we're getting something out of this. Like I want to make a living. I know you want to make a living, you know, you got people to support and we live in this material world, but I know like there's a lot of other things that I could be doing to make
yeah.
money a lot easier than this, you know, and like that's not the primary motivation for me. That selfish motivation or that like desire to make a living, it's not the primary motivation. It's like no like uh, it's that community that you're talking about. It's that like that sense of healing that you experienced, and then now you're like, cool, like this is part of my mission now, is to pass this on to somebody else, is to see that in the community that I'm in. It's
Mm,
to, you know, to inspire others just by being, you know, and it's not about the self in that way. It just becomes more about the whole community of which we are a part of, you know, whether that's your local community or, you know, the internet group that you're a part of, or, you know, on a more meta level, like the human race. Cause like you said, like it's not just about um you know what I'm doing. It's just about like how am I being, and then other people like kind of being attracted to that energy, you
mm-hmm.
know. And
Yeah.
that's something that I appreciate about you and what I see you doing with the energy stack, and you know your the cold plunging group is just like you're not like saying, hey, this is the better way. You're just being like, hey, this is what I do, and if you want to come be a part of it, you're welcome. Like please
Yeah.
come and enjoy, and like join, you know, add your energy to the collective, and then everything just continues to grow and like flourish and build out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I agree. I think it is a tricky balance, right? Because we do want to, there's this tendency to want to turn it into a financial or a results oriented thing. And it's really not that. I think the heart of it is love, and
Mm,
I love life. And when I do these practices, it reminds me how much I love life and how beautiful the experience is. And we can all experience that. We can all experience that. So shine it bright, say it loud, share it, and people will come. You don't have to walk anyone there or drag anyone in. This is something that when you are ready to experience, there are many, many opportunities to jump in and feel that love.
yeah.
And so I think that's our responsibility is to just shine that beacon, that send that tuning fork out into the
Mm,
world, you know, and just allow us each other to tune into that frequency, because I feel the same with you or with others, right? It's like we need that. So I tune in and I listen and I'm like, okay, now I'm in this frequency again. I'm happy and I'm feeling good. And I think, you know, that's something that needs to be shared. We need to continue to share that with each other.
yeah, there was another brother, and I'm hoping to have him back on the podcast soon, but that does a lot of men's work with Sacred Sons, and he
Hmm.
said something when he was on the podcast that's like it's stuck with me ever since. He said, like our job is to be the lighthouse, because if we try to jump in the water and save every ship, we're gonna drown. So like
Hmm.
all we have to do is just be the lighthouse, be in that energy, and the ships will come to us, you know, like that.
Hmm.
It's not our responsibility to go out and save everybody, you know,
Yeah.
and that's a good way to drown if you do that, you know. So so yeah, I love what you said, man, about it being about love. It really reminds me of like Ram Dass, you know, like this conversation that we're having now about the
Hmm.
sort of the comparison between being in love in that space and energy and frequency of love versus like the flip side, the games and the egoic and the monetary stuff, like Ram Dass said, like, oh yeah, like I played all these games for a long time, like I was a professor and I had this and I needed this title and that title. And then it's like about giving up those games and just coming in to that space of love,
Yep.
and then just being, and having that frequency. And then we're just walking each other home. We're just there with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's really where the truth of the matter lies, and where the most peace has been for me is finding that love, and connecting into it as often as possible.
Mm.
Ram Dass is a beautiful example of that. Yeah, I totally agree. I really like what you're saying too about the lighthouse, and sort of kind of this idea, this new paradigm we're shifting into, of this balancing of the masculine and feminine energies, and a
Mm.
lighthouse is big and powerful, and it does have this masculine vibration to it, but it like you said, what I liked is it's very feminine. It receives those who need help. It allows them to come in rather than trying to find and pull in and gather. It's open and it's there and it holds space, but it's just receiving that. And it's a definite balance. We got to balance both those polarities in order to really stand in that place from a true centered spot.
Yeah, beautifully said. So what are some of the ways that you kind of cultivate that now within your own life?
Yeah. The balance of the
Yeah.
energy,
Hmm.
man. I think for me, that's really just been learning to let go of expectation, learning to let go of what the next move is. Um, Growing up, working, trying to get a check, trying to do the next thing, trying to control what's coming, and kind of growing up in this culture that we've grown up in. It's always very results. What's the next? What's the next? Where are you going to go? You went to high school, you go to college, you get a job. And it's like there's always another thing to do. And learning how to unwind that in my life and learn to balance, just sitting in quiet, receiving inspiration, receiving information, and just allowing it to unfold. It's a difficult task to be patient sometimes, but that's where the work is. If it feels impatient, that's where I find where my work is. Like, okay, I need to sit in that a little bit longer. If I'm trying to force it, that's where I notice, like, okay, relax. And it's a balance, right? Because there's value in setting goals. There's value in linear time and looking ahead and kind of tracking. That it's important, and it helps us grow, and it also helps us move from you know good situations to great, or bad to good. But there's this balance of you setting that intention and connecting to that, and then letting the rest come to you. And that's really, really been a focus of mine, especially with all of these practices, is just letting those practices be the opportunity to teach surrender, to teach quiet and stillness. Um, and it's something I'm working on still, you know?
Yeah, that idea, that concept of surrender is just so key. And it has, like, sometimes I almost wish like there was a different word for it, because it has like certain connotations within the English
Mm,
language. But like, just like you're saying, it's that openness. It's not about like giving up per se. It's about being open to all the different possibilities and what's coming into to your field, because like we plan, we set goals, and then things change, things happen, just like the experience you shared with your daughter. I mean, that literally happened in the blink of an eye. And
mm,
I'm sure it changed the plans, at least for the immediate future, at least for that day.
mm-hmm.
You can't just say like, oh, well, we're just going to keep going with the plan. Um, sometimes the way that I like to think about it is like being in this like river, and there's some times where I'm in the river where like I have like a goal, or like there's a point that I'm swimming towards, and like I'm like, okay, I see that thing, and I'm just gonna go at it. And then there's other times where it's like you just have to let go and let the current take you, because otherwise you're just going to be wasting your energy fighting against a force that's much more powerful than
Mm-hmm.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's that balance, and that like that dance of like when do I swim versus when do I just release. And yeah, there's so much value in that, sort of that study and that contemplation, that meditation on that, like you're
Yeah.
saying.
Totally. I think, I love that you bring up the river idea. This is an analogy I've thought of or has come to me many times, especially within breathwork or psychedelics, of having the realization of seeing myself in that river, and I'm hanging on tight. I'm on my tube and I'm holding on to some branch, and I'm like, I cannot let go. Like, I need this. This is safe. And if I just let go, I'd probably drift right into the sandy beach and it would all
Right.
be good. But I'm just hanging on so tight and just, so it is that setting the intention, knowing you want that sandy beach, but then allowing it to show up, and allowing yourself to receive it, and just learning to let go of that fear, and trusting that the universe has our back. It's co-conspiring with us to bring us that beach. You just got to trust it. It's there.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Yeah, it's like it's so much more effort to hang on and to fight it than just to let go and let it happen. And like, and then you look around, you're like, oh man, like look at all this energy that I just spent, when that was what I was supposed to do the whole time, was just
Yeah.
let go. That's the lesson there.
Yeah.
And I love that you brought up something else that I like to talk about as well, which is learning through your practice to like when you feel that resistance or that friction, that's where the work is.
Mm.
It's, and that's such a shift, but I think it's such a powerful shift.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being like, I have this problem, or this is challenging, like there's a curiosity there of like, well, why is this challenging? Like, what is this trying to teach me? Or like, what needs to, what do I need to surrender to
Mm-hmm.
so that this becomes easier? It's an invitation. Like, I've almost like thought of it like Pavlov, training his dog. It's like you're hearing that bell
Yep.
ringing, and it's like, okay, well, wait, there's some work here. Time to like slow down and like kind of focus in on it. And oh, now I actually feel grateful for this. Like, instead of being like, damn, I have
Mm.
this difficulty, it's like, oh, cool. Like, I'm getting this very clear message of like where I still have some work to do. And like
Right.
what a blessing that is.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, triggers become the best teachers, right? And the shadow is what helps us realize the light. I mean, they go together. It's very
Hmm.
dualistic, and it's one whole. We experience them all. We can't have one without the other, and I completely agree. I mean, my triggers they plague us, right? They plague me, but they are what helps me unwind and undo those layers of programming. I agree. I like Pavlov's dog analogy. It's like, for a long time, you just hear the ring and you don't even know what it is. It's just ringing, right? It
Right.
takes many, many, many tries. It's like, oh, okay, that ring means something, and for me, I've noticed the way that happens is trigger comes up, then my reaction, then the emotion. And that's usually where I think a lot of us end up washing out, and where I end up feeling it is like, okay, I felt like crap. So I must have
Mm-hmm.
done something in there that wasn't my highest self or in line with my integrity. And so you can kind of like trace it back, starting from your emotion on how you feel back to the trigger, and kind of watch that pattern, and it'll really help you unfold those things. And then as the triggers come up for me, I see them, and I see them, like you said, as this beautiful thing, like, ah, okay, what am I learning here? And when I go through it in that process, the emotion is always like, I love that person that triggered me, and they only triggered me because I wanted something that I saw them have, or because I
Mm.
felt like I wasn't, or, and that's my thing. That's not their, they didn't do any, this experience wasn't wrong. It was just another one of those bells along the way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. My main Buddhist teacher talks about something similar to that, in terms of like, he'll say the the people that harm us, or that like that don't that aren't showing us love and compassion, are actually more precious than the people that
Mm,
do love us, because they'll teach you things that like the people that love you could never do. Like, because nobody that like loves you and cares about you is going to teach you how to be more patient. They're not going to like give you these lessons that somebody that like quote unquote is like harming you, or like has ill will towards you, is going to actually like give you the opportunity to learn. And
mm,
so in that way, like they're just as precious, if not more, because like you're like, your mom would never do that, right? Like your mom wouldn't just be like, well, I'm just gonna, be mean to this kid. So it's just like, it's just a really incredible reframe when you can like start to see the teaching and the value in those triggers, like you're saying.
yeah, and it illuminates kind of something you touched on a minute ago, which is that it all ends up being something that is taking you towards your higher self. So you hit
Mm,
the challenge, cool, but in the end, that challenge led you to where you needed to be. Um, it's hard to connect the dots from I'm in a hospital to I'm finding breath work to a couple of years later being able to share that with others. In the moment, that's not always evident, but when you
right.
see the path holistically or from that larger angle, it starts to really line up with that. I mean, we have a soul
Yeah.
contract where somebody comes to be that grist for the mill, and kind of grind
Mm-hmm.
it out. Super important. So for all those people who feel frustrated with me, you're welcome.
Yeah, and it's and just going back to that surrender, of like we're sort of conditioned to turn away from those things, like you said,
Mm,
get kind of caught up in the emotion, and like, okay, if this is an emotion that's uncomfortable, or that I'm used to soothing in a way where I can get away from it, then you could
mm,
just kind of stay stuck. But then we take that experience into a psychedelic experience, or a breathwork experience, or our meditation experience, and like we sit with it, and we can actually like lean into it
mm,
instead of like going away from it. And then that's where it actually starts to break up or change, or we see it from a different perspective, and like start to see like, oh, well, maybe there is a blessing in this, or I'm choosing to look at it this certain way, and I can shift that perspective, or just let it go entirely, because it's
mm,
like not really affecting me anymore, other than what's living between my ears,
mhm,
and I love that you brought in, like where like kind of connecting to the body as a way to like trace that back, right? Because
mm,
like that's such a powerful way of really finding the root of some of those things, is like, where is this living in my body? Like
mm,
where do I feel this? And like, can I sit with it? Is it okay to be with it, to bring the breath around it, to just let it be, and then listen to what it has to tell me, you
mhm,
know let that memory come up, or like let that uncomfortable emotion process through me, instead of being like, no, got to get away from this, like this is not safe, or this is not comfortable. And
mhm.
so it's just gonna kind of be there until I can actually get around to that surrender.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have sort of, I know I have created patterns in my life where I avoid it, or
Hmm.
I mask it, or I pretend it's not there, or I drink it away, or you name it, right? We've all kind of
Right.
experienced those things. And yeah, I mean, there's so many applications for psychedelics and breath work. And I think the cold therapy is one that is blowing up, and it's because it is a physical feeling that I can feel in my
Mm.
body that teaches me that pain isn't always something I need to run away from. And I sit in that for a moment, and then I realize, holy shit, that was actually exactly what I needed. Like, this is
Yeah.
so beneficial. And I feel so happy having sat and endured that for a moment. And you start to realize, like, it is in here. It
Right.
is my tendencies wanting to teach me to escape,
Right.
um, rather than sitting through. And then those applications start to show up everywhere in your life, and you can see how the connection from sitting in the cold, or breathing, or going through that psychedelic experience, where however you got there, can transfer into these other areas of your life, where you can, it's like, okay, I see how this might teach me now, and I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna go through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
I would say the hardest part of an ice bath is getting in. It's
right.
like, yeah, you're going to be uncomfortable for 30 to 60 seconds after you get in, but like that, the hardest part is like getting over the mental battle. Cause
Yep.
like, I remember when I first started to practice, like I would be like, there'd be days where I knew I was going to do an ice bath in the afternoon, and I would wake up and immediately start making excuses, like, or start like building the story about like why
Hmm.
today is not a good day to do an ice bath. And this is something that's like literally hours away, you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
And I feel grateful that like I had that awareness of like that narrative was building, and then I could like sit and watch it, you know, try to get stronger, or like try to assert itself into my reality. But like, so yeah, it's just like, no, the hardest part is just getting in, it's like,
Yep.
and if you can watch that, if you can be more powerful than that thought, which is like, oh, this is dangerous, I should not be doing this, and whatever other stories you're going to make up around that, because like that's
Hmm.
really the core of it, right? Is like, this is dangerous to me,
Hmm.
um, this is not safe. And also, like, I feel grateful that I have this incredible body with these genes that still remembers, that reptilian part of my brain that's like, this is not safe, you should not be doing this, like, even though
Hmm.
it's perfectly safe for me to
Hmm.
be in there for a couple of minutes, I know nothing's going to happen. But like, oh yeah, cool, like I still have this genetic code within me that's like, nope, don't do that.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's just conquering that little piece of code, and like, you know not letting that be the what's in charge. And then like you're saying, like, oh, what other places are those codes running in my life?
Yep. Yep. They're running all over. That's the thing,
Right.
right? Is like, there's a
All over.
filter, and something comes in and it goes through that code, and you don't even realize it. I don't even realize it because it already
Right.
happened before I'm there. That's the whole emotions and tracking it back, right? But yeah, this
Yeah.
whole process illuminates that awareness. And yeah, I love that you said that, because I've spent time, even in like a cold shower, and I'm like in a cold shower and I'm comfy and I'm having this moment where I'm like, I spent my whole life avoiding a cold shower, like a hot shower. That's what it needs to be. But this feels good. I'm in here. I don't even feel, I'm enjoying it. And it's
Right.
just this moment of awareness that I choose my reality. I choose how I feel about things. I choose what I resist. I choose what I
Mm.
accept. And um, a lot of it is pre-programmed. A lot of it's just in there deep, and you don't even see it. I just do the same thing every single day. This is what we do. I
Right.
really like that. It's almost like you insert this little positive little virus into the code, and it kind of like gets in there and starts to kind of fiddle with it and break it down, and you get to see it another way. And psychedelics do that. It like opens up all these possibilities, and then you go back to your patterns. So you got to integrate all those other new ideas. But that's the idea, is just adding that positive little virus into that conditioned code, and really breaking it down.
Yeah, it's such a great metaphor, like of, we have this ability to hack our own code and to
Mm,
augment it. And if we don't have any of these practices, if we don't have the awareness of it, then the code's just running without any awareness, any knowledge. And so, yeah, then we have these moments that just kind of wake us up. And then all of a
mm,
sudden it's like, oh, cool. Now I'm the programmer, and I can choose
mm.
which programs I like want to work on, and
Yes.
change, and be open to the fact that it's a process, that there's a lot of code to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how deep that rabbit hole goes sometimes, where you're like, oh yeah, like I totally worked on this, like I'm good. And then it like comes back around in this other way. Or
Yep.
like you're saying, like what you were saying in the beginning of your story, like, well, now because I have a greater capacity through my practice,
Mm.
now life is like, oh, cool. Now you can handle more. Like
Mm-hmm.
now you're ready for the next level, you
Yep.
know? And like, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful place to get to, even though sometimes it's like, I have this conversation with other people that are doing, like development work and working with psychedelics and stuff. And they're like, and I feel like we've all had this moment where like, you just look at somebody and you're just like, can I just get a break for like a few minutes?
Yeah.
Like, why is there always something else to work on? Why is
Yeah.
there always something else to heal? Like I just want to chill out for like 5 minutes without there
Mm.
being another level or another Mercury retrograde or,
Sure.
another ceremony to integrate. And it's like,
Mm.
yes. And we're in the situation because we can handle it. Because like
Mm.
you've grown and you have the resourcing to go through what you're going through.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you pick up that heavier set of spiritual weights and you get going, and that first time is not easy, right? But it's
Right.
I feel you. I felt that in my life. And then I think too, you kind of brought the idea of I can't remember how you said it, but it made me think of Ram Dass again, and sort of you said be your own programmer. Ram Dass calls it just being the witness, right?
Right.
Watching the thought patterns happen, and sort of just um, maybe there's nothing to fix, just watch it,
Right.
you know, and that's okay too. But I think it's, for me, the more I can identify with that awareness and watch those patterns, um, it feels as though I'm able to pick up those new spiritual weights, right?
Mm.
So that, yeah, that I resonate with that a lot. I really like that idea.
Yeah. So how did you like kind of start building? Because I like take me a little bit like through the timeline of like some of the groups that you're involved in Utah there.
Mm.
Like you've been doing the cold plunging group. Was that like the first thing that you kind of started?
Yeah, for me, personally, like I said, I kind of went in this journey in internal, and something happened end of 21 inside of me that was like, click, switch went on, and all of a sudden I just kept having this feeling like, I need to share this. I need to be a part of something bigger than just my own inner healing journey.
Hmm.
I didn't know what that meant. I just knew I was passionate about it, and I wanted to share. Um, and really, what I think, back up a step or two briefly. Um, a lot of gratitude for combo, and for I had that experience last summer with Upper Wellness, who you've met with before, and I think who
Mm-hmm.
connected us ultimately, right?
Yeah.
With Jeff and Sam. Uh, awesome people, beautiful frog, beautiful medicine, And for me, that was a great kickstart into listening to that intuition and balancing that masculine and feminine energy and receiving life. And so from there, it kind of wound me down that path to feeling called. And I didn't know what that meant. And a lot of times I still don't, right? It's just, we just discover as we go, especially when we're coming from that place of heart and receiving. And so what happened was, it was actually my son and my wife were joking with each other as we were hiking in the winter. It was January and it was like a sunny day, but very cold. And we were in the mountains and it was like, hey, I'll give you $50 if you get in that water, you know? And he was like, he's 12. He was like, all right, I'm in right now. Let's go. He's taking off his shirt, like, right, you know, right there. And I'm like, bro, hold on, chill out. Like, we don't have a towel. It's 12 degrees. Like, what are you thinking, man? Let's go. Let's get prepared and let's get up to the mountain and we'll do it right. I support you. You're badass. Like, let's do this. So, I did what anybody would do. And I text my friends and my family and said, hey, we're going up to the mountain and we're getting in the water. And, I know it sounds a little crazy, but if you're interested, you come give it a try. And everyone I text showed up. Everyone. There was, 20 of us, and it was my brothers and sisters and a couple close friends and Jeff, and we pulled up, and it's like 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and it's I think it was 17 degrees outside, if I recall, and we go down and there's snow everywhere and there's no sun because we're in the canyon, and there's ice all over the river everywhere, and we all kind of looked at each other like, all right, I guess we're doing this. And we got there and we just got in, and we all got in, and we turned some awesome music up real loud, and like we just like powered in there, and we were all just having this moment of like, just that moment of loving life, just this excitement inside of us. And there was sort of this idea of like, well, how long are we going to go? Or how long's it been? It's like, it's been 4 minutes. Like, holy shit, we've been in here for so long. I'm freezing. And like, it was like this powerful experience that we had, and we got out and shivering, and you can't even put your own clothes on. We're helping each other. Like, we put your friend's socks on, and, and we head home, and it's like, you do your Sunday, and I was having this feeling of like, just bliss, pure bliss. And, I text Jeff, and he's like, dude, I feel so damn good too. And my brother texts me. He was like, should we go back next week? Like, yeah, let's do it again. So we went again. And this time, you text another friend who you didn't text last time, and that expands. And we went again, and we had the same experience where it doesn't make any sense. It's 10 degrees. It's freezing cold. You just strip down to your skivvies and get in the water, and and there's no lake because it's frozen. So we're in the river. And so we're laying down, it's like this just wild animalistic experience. And, it was so psychedelic and so beautiful. And I felt that energy of myself healing and others healing together amplified. It was just like this beacon, just boom, just set off. And I felt like, okay, I'm going to start inviting everyone I possibly know to do this. And I had been kind of off social media for a few years, and I hopped right back in and just was like, here we go. And just started inviting anyone I could, anyone that was wanting to do this. And as people would come and show up, a lot of times they were our friends, and sometimes they were a friend of a friend. And so it's this hugs, and it's beautiful, and we're, I love you, man. It's good to see you. And next thing you know, now you're hugging somebody's cousin and the neighbor. And then a guy from the parking lot that we met on the way up was like, hey, you ever heard of a cold plunge? He's like, sure, I'll try. And you're hugging him, and this community starts to form, and it's like, we're commiserating together. We're feeling this pain together. We're feeling this gratitude of this experience together. And it was contagious. same people coming back every week, bringing a new friend, and it just grew because there was so much pure just love and passion for wanting to just have this happy human experience together. Um, I don't think we realized what it meant on the healing journey or the community at the time, but as this year has gone by, it's just really I'm just so grateful for the experience, because not only did it teach me how powerful of a modality that is, but it connected me to myself and to the community in a way that I didn't know existed. Um, and that was kind of the first thing, and then people who you start to meet through there, now it's like, okay, the next thing's the men's circle. And that's like, boom. And that's another whole nother set of connections. And then you go to another, you meet somebody else and it's like, I go to a retreat or meet a friend or go to a breathwork class. And all of a sudden these connections that I didn't know were there, it was like, my two friends were connecting as if they were two best friends. And I'm like, look how beautiful this is. And it's this big flower of life that's forming all around us through all these beautiful connections. And so, as that unfolds, just keep saying yes, keep showing up, keep pouring, love and just passion into that. And it just keeps unfolding into this beautiful experience.
Yeah, it's been
And I'm
beautiful to
so
watch.
ready for winter. We're coming up on it again. It's like I never thought. I don't know. I grew up in Utah. We love the winter and we get outside, but not quite like this.
Right.
And I'm so excited for it. It's almost here again, so it's good.
Yeah, it's been super cool to watch on Instagram. Like I can just see it from the things that you post that, and before I was following you, it was like watching Jeff's feed and like, oh wow, like there's more people every week. And like look how cool that is. And they all look like they're having a good time. And, you guys are playing music and, just jamming out, and there's this real sense of community there. And it's a really, really powerful thing,
Yeah. Yeah, it really
Beautiful.
is. Really, really is.
You mentioned the men's work, and I think that's another important thing I'd like to touch on, in terms of, you know, both of us being men in this space. And one of the things that I noticed, kind of getting involved more into community of people working with psychedelics, breath work, is that um, for whatever reason, men in this space are a little bit more rare. For some reason, it almost seems to attract in more of that feminine energy, and nothing wrong with that. And it's not. I'm not trying to say that women don't have their own needs for this kind of work, but I have a lot of gratitude for men that are showing up, um, because oftentimes, like, I feel like I'll talk to them, and I know for myself, I feel like I'm rewriting some of that code, that I learned very early on, that does not serve me, does not serve my community, does not serve my family, does not serve my world, in any way, shape, or form. And I feel like I hear that from others as well. So I wanted to kind of touch on that. Like, does that resonate to you, or like how do you find, the men's work fitting in, and like why you feel important, like that's an important thing.
Yeah, I do resonate. um, it was wild for me to have that same experience of, like I said, I kind of hop back into social media and starting to connect into this larger, like what a beautiful tool, right? To allow us to connect and even for us to meet through there and have this friendship that we've built. It's such a beautiful thing. But I noticed the exact same thing. It was like all these women were starting to follow and all these women were commenting and communicating. And not that there wasn't men too, but definitely, felt like an imbalance that way. No judgment, just noticing that. And And I really felt that too. I think for me that comes from, or if I can, you know, be so bold as to like identify why that might happen, I think it would be, I think men are, we are programmed, our programming has less vulnerability, it has less acceptance of self-love traditionally, or healthy versions of self-love. um, and I think that leads to us going down these roads of, we're just not honest with ourselves. We're not honest with each other. We wear a mask. I'm not going to be
Mhm.
vulnerable. And when you're not vulnerable, you can't surrender. You can't, because your shield's on. Um, and so women tend to have a uh, intuition that leads them there, and they're very vulnerable, and they listen to that intuition, and they're okay being in that space. Again, using blanket men and women, but
Yeah.
typically that's what I've seen. um, and so I loved being able to find and connect into a community of men who are okay with that intuitive side, with that lover aspect of themselves, with that version that receives life. um, the drum circles always call me in because music is feminine, it's creative, it's receiving this you become this conduit from source, and you make music through that. And so when I find a community of men who are willing to be vulnerable and willing to support each other and allow each other to show up as we are, um, and especially the music, that's always what got me. I was like, oh yeah, we're drumming, all right, cool, I'm in. It's just a beautiful thing to witness and be a part of, and for me specifically, to help balance my own masculine and feminine within myself, and really
Mhm.
stand in the divine masculine by having that balance.
Yeah, that there's something that's really powerful about that, especially within the altered state of the ways that we help each other heal. Um, I've heard this comment. I feel like I've experienced this comment in my own way of like somebody showing up in and embodying the higher energy of the masculine, or in my case, somebody embodying that higher state of feminine energy helps heal something within myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that from women where they're like, you're embodying that higher masculine, that divine masculine, and that allowed me to like heal something that I was holding on to, that I didn't trust in myself. And we all have these wounded relationships that we're, you know at one point in our life maybe we're not fulfilled in some certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And then by showing up in that divine energy, we're able to not only like heal something within ourselves, but like that reflects out into the other areas of the group. And it's it's a really interesting process. It's something that like I'm continuously kind of like looking at and trying to see like where how can I continue to make this flourish? Like how can I continue to build in this area? Because like you said, there's such a need for it, and it is challenging for men to be vulnerable sometimes. Like that's the way that we were kind of brought up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is just vulnerability is not okay. And
Mm-hmm.
then you find yourself like, in a ceremony or like, doing breath work, and all of a sudden like you're those some of those programs are being challenged.
Mm-hmm.
um I know for me there's been like very uncomfortable moments of like confronting that, and then there's other people I've talked to where I'm like, wow, like okay, I know I had some toxicity, but like then I wasn't like in the military or anything where like, I'm hearing stories about just the energy and like the the behavior, and like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, wow, like it's really important to be able to shed those things, to be able to like move on from those patterns that aren't serving us. But like I've had some uncomfortable moments like confronting that kind of stuff,
Right.
gets ingrained really deep.
Yep.
So, to be able to open up and have that vulnerability and have the courage to face that
Hmm.
is really important. And I'm trying to remember who it was that I was talking to, but they said something along those lines of like, that's the way that I talk to men about this work, is that being courageous is a masculine trait,
Hmm.
and it's courageous to show up for yourself and to
Hmm.
challenge these parts of us that need healing, or that are toxic, or that just don't fit the program anymore.
Yep.
But like you said, sometimes it's easier said than done to get over that initial vulnerability.
Yeah, it is. There's something we say a lot in the men's circle. Somebody, had brought it up. I can't remember specifically who, but it's something that we repeat time to time, time and time again, which is, they said that they were scared to come there today. And their wife said, cool, go scared, be scared,
Yeah.
and that
Right.
stuck with me because, like you said, that's that courage and that's that vulnerability. And when we don't show up because we're scared, all we do is keep ourselves from love, right? When I'm not vulnerable and I think I'm protecting, I'm keeping all of those things out. And a lot of times that's that realization that you're talking about. I've had that before too, where I have to face that. It's like, okay, I am the reason why I don't feel good because I didn't let that love in because I thought I was doing something that was protecting me. And I was really just like tucking down into my shell as hard as I could. And I was keeping myself from enjoying the beauty and the love that comes from being open and connecting with others.
Yeah. And that accountability is something that is, I think I would consider a masculine trait as well. Like
Mm.
being accountable and responsible to myself,
Mm-hmm.
and having the courage to look and in an honest way and say like, hey, here's a way that I fell a little bit short,
Mm-hmm.
and in a compassionate way, in a way that is embodying that higher self, not like a critical or a shameful way, but
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, like I know that I'm capable of more, and I
Yep.
can do better next time, and being willing to look at those parts of me and make that change.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We just at the men's circle we just call that owning your shit, right?
Yeah.
I mean that's
Hmm.
what it is. You and I each get the opportunity to own and be accountable for our actions and how we feel and how the energy and the vibration that we send into the unified field and what comes back to us. And when it starts here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, I think that might be a good place to break. I mean, it's just so poetic right there. Like, it just sounds so good. So if people want to learn more about the things that you're doing, well, yeah, maybe we should talk about the energy stack a little bit first.
Yeah, we can give
Um,
a little love to the energy stack.
yeah, I definitely want to give some love to the energy stack.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Energy stack is a creation of really good friend of mine, Mike Canales, just a local. Um, I want to call him just like he's a lighthouse in our community
Mm.
here, and somebody that when you're around, you just feel like you're going to be a better version of yourself. He has that energy, and he draws that in just by shining his light. He and I teamed up, and with our wives, we put this gathering together where the intent is just to connect, right? Find that quiet, that witness, find that center. And we call it an energy stack because it's mixed modality, and we come in and we do the hape, and we do some meditation, and then we do some breath work, and then we integrate together, and then we cold plunge, and there's kind of this stacking that goes on, all practices that we have found that have helped us get into that connection place. And so we figured, why not, throw a little party and invite our whoever wants to come to just be a part of it and experience that. And that's really what it is, sound bath, and just all of the things, right? Bringing all of them in to kind of meld into this creation, and each time's a little different, and we co-create with who is there, but the intention is to just hold that space. We've all, I know I have, and I'm sure many others, and I hear this a lot. It's almost like we're coming out of this hibernation. We did this work, and we've been on these journeys, and we wish for community, and we step out, and it's like, oh, it's here. It's already here. And a lot of times what that means is you creating it, because if you're thinking you need it, somebody else is too, right? We're never alone. We're all connected. We're all one in this large humanity that we're in on this earth, where we're one consciousness. And so when you feel those things, it's not just in here, it's out there. And that's what I've learned. And so when we wanted to do this, it was just another, just creating more space like that, right? Just allowing the sound to be the medicine, and the people to be the medicine, and the breath work, and just to gather,
Yeah.
and to connect, and to commiserate and integrate. Integration is so important. Taking all those pieces and little pieces from each thing and bringing them into the one. And that's what we like to do. And we just like to have fun and hold sacred space, and kind of just create a container for that to be felt.
Yeah, it sounds like such a natural like evolution from the cold plunging group of like, okay, we've figured out how to do that. Like, how can we just keep building on that, keep expanding it? And such a cool thing, just to, like I said, just to observe it growing and like see you growing. And I mean, I've had moments where I'm like, man, like I do stuff online. I'm like, okay, like I needed to take a page from these guys' books and like figure out how to get something started here locally, because it's
Yeah.
just it's inspiring to watch what you guys are doing.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. It's really, it feels really natural and beautiful, and I'm grateful for the experience. And I would absolutely love to come down to AZ and do it energy stack Arizona style one of these days, or team up and find something we can do. But I agree. I mean, being in the community, body to body, energetic body to energetic body, and being together is a very important component. It's why ceremony is so valuable, right? Because you have that journey, but it's this collective experience that lifts it into that space that we just can't quite get to as an individual. And it's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing. So yeah, I'd love to experience that with you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I
Yeah,
think we've already started to talk about that a
we
little bit.
have.
So
Hey,
yeah,
like we're saying,
I gotta figure out how to connect with Jeff like the right time and just kind of make that all happen, because I've had some calling back to combo as well. So that would
so,
be a really cool thing.
well, whenever it makes sense, I know it will happen. That's
Yeah,
how these things unfold. We just walk them one step
exactly.
at a time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So if people want to connect with you, where should they go?
Um, Adam Heaps on Instagram. We have an energy stack, the energy stack on Instagram as well. Um, and both, just kind of meant to, like I was saying earlier, just shoot those beacons of love out there into the ethers, and whoever's needs that or connected to it or a vibrational match will be there to feel it. Um, Those are two really good places. I think if you want to find me and connect, I'd love to connect and hang out. Uh, I pushed social media away for a long time out of my fear, out of my own triggers, and being there this year has been such a beautiful experience because it's just been so it's such a beautiful tool for connection. So I mean, it allows us to be. I mean, you and I can be friends, and that would just not happen 10 years ago, right? It's just not,
Right.
or prior to that, right? Very
Right.
tribal. So I like that our tribe can be local and global at the same time. I love that. So yeah, if you want to connect, that's where I'm at Instagram, at Adam Heaps or at the Energy Stack.
Yeah, I'm grateful that you transmuted that block because I love your content. I think it's really creative and like I just like the vibe of it, and so keep up the good work, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. You are an inspiration for me too. You always have quality content coming out, so I am grateful for that as well. Thank you. We all push
Thanks,
each
man.
other, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful thing.
Well, awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate you being here and sharing your experience, and like what a great conversation about programming and just being in that field of love, and
Mhm.
so many good nuggets that we just talked about, man.
Yeah,
It's been
thank you.
really
This
great.
was really awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right. Well, definitely check out, Adam and the Energy Stack. We'll put the link to his page on the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, would love it if you left a review, told a friend. Check it out on YouTube if you're listening. We're just pushing over the content now, and we'll eventually have all the old episodes on there as well. So appreciate you supporting the podcast. Would love to hear from you. And hopefully, this conversation inspired you to go and try something, maybe a little bit outside your comfort zone. Like taking a cold shower is a great way to start. If a ice bath seems a little too much, you can just turn the water to cold and like get that feeling, start to build, or like Adam was saying, just taking a few moments to get quiet, connect to your breath, and connect to that inner wisdom that's within you. So I really hope that this conversation inspired you to get curious, to try something new, and to continue to practice, because practice is the vital point. So until next time, my friends, this is Jonathan Schecter signing off.